Hi, I'm Katie from What Katie Did, and do I have some tea for you? This week it's been kicking off on Twitter about corsets, and I've done several videos about corsets in the media before, and generally with journalists I tend to give them a free pass because if you're a journalist you cover a whole range of subjects and you're given a limited time to research, and obviously when you research corsets quickly you turn up a whole load of nonsense, and the journalists don't know any better, and they tend to go for really attention grabbing headlines, and it's just basically a load of nonsense, and that's fine. But this week there was someone on Twitter who isn't exactly in the corset industry, and I'm not going to tell you the name because it just is going to add fuel to the fire, but it was kind of not hurtful, but when someone you kind of resonate with, and they do publish an awful lot of good content, and I know a lot of people in the corset and lingerie industry do follow them, and they do post great stuff. But anyway, in the last week they posted about corsets being seriously damaging to your health, and there was more than a little backlash. Obviously people asked for receipts, and she to her name gave us the receipts, but unfortunately the receipts dated back to the 19th century, and this is the big issue with corsets. When people say that corsets are damaging to your body, the evidence always comes back to the medical profession 150 years ago, and things have changed slightly since then. We know a lot more about the human body than we did back then, and medical practices have improved a lot. You have to remember at this time back in history, the doctors couldn't understand why the organs were moving around in the body and wanted to reposition them correctly, because obviously when you're standing up your organs are in a different place to when you're lying down, and if you do yoga you'll know this as well. So that's where they were back in the day, and so they really didn't understand very much about how corsets affected the body at all. And this Twitter person was using that as evidence to say corsets were really bad for you, and it wasn't like a case of they're a bit niggly. It was like they can cause death, which is totally untrue. There's lots of things that cause serious health issues back in the 19th century, and corsets, if anything, protected the body from harm. So yeah, she had a lot of backlash, and she did backtrack a lot. And unfortunately, at the end of the backtrack, she said, I know I'll have lots of corset wearers chasing after me, but I don't care because they can't run very fast in their corsets. And I have to admit, I've never been one for running, not because I wear a corset, because I've just never been good at running, but I'm quite happy to lay my cards on the table and say I'll give it a go. So if she wants to do a race, perhaps at the Champ Olympiad next summer, then I'm all for it. So yeah, corset racing, I'm on for it. So where do all these myths about corsets come from, and how do they really affect your body? You have to remember back when everyone wore corsets at the 18th, 19th centuries and the first 20 odd years of the 20th century. That's before bras were around, so the corset was really there to protect, to support your bust. They also supported your back, because you also have to remember back then women would have had multiple pregnancies, and their lives would have been very, very physical, and they'd either be poor and have to work, or they'd be doing the housework and cleaning and a lot of physical work, and they wouldn't have the time we have now to recuperate after giving birth, after pregnancies. So by wearing a corsets would support the torso, they support the bust, and they allow the woman to go about her daily routine. And it wasn't just women who used to wear corsets as well. It was also men, and officers in the army used to wear corsets, and also the upper class men used to wear corsets either for medical reasons or for vanity reasons, as part of their slimming aid to give the shape they wanted to have and to show. So it wasn't just women, it was also men, but women it was to help support the body after childbirth and to support the bust during work and their daily routine. When you look at tight lacing corsets, I guess, like I wear, they are in the minority, and they always were in the minority. And I'm a great fan of the 80-20 rule. And if you give it a Google, if you don't know what the 80-20 rule is, it basically you can apply it to everything, and you can have great fun working with it. But for an example, 80% of the women who wore corsets back in the day, they would be wearing it for support. And most of these people, back in the day would have been poor. So like 80% of the people would have been poor, 20% would be rich, 80% would have worn corsets for support, 20% would have worn them for fashion, for support. And yes, to have a tiny waist, to look, good at balls and parties and before they were being married off, and, God knows what else. But this when we look at corsets in museums today, they tend to be very, very tiny sizes. And this is because the ones that survived wouldn't have been worn very much. They would have been owned by rich people who could afford not to wear them very much. They would have been made for special events like, engagement parties, big birthday parties, for special balls. And also, they could also be dead stock. By dead stock, I mean stock that hasn't sold. And whenever we have a corset sale here, it's always the 18s that are left. It's so the 18-inch corsets are not only our smallest corsets, but also our smallest selling corsets. And so that's why when you see in museums and places where you see vintage corsets, then that's why they tend to be tiny sizes, is because they're the ones that were worn by younger women who weren't worn very much, or which weren't sold, or who were made as display corsets. When you actually look at the facts dating back to the previous centuries, the actual corsets, when they were made in factories, they cover the same size range as corsets tend to today. And the smallest size, generally off the peg made, was an 18, just as today. And they used to go up to like 34, which is what Katie did we do as well. So it wasn't like everyone was wearing tiny corsets. Everyone was wearing a corset that supported their body. And it wasn't even so much the shape of the waist. It was very much a gentle curve, and it was literally to support the body and help them go about their day-to-day routines. So to say corsets are damaging is just crazy, when so many people wore them who wouldn't have been able to go about their daily lives without wearing them. I have done another video about wearing corsets after childbirth, and straight up, I don't recommend wearing a full corset after childbirth, because we live in modern society and we have other options. There is a big trend for waist binding after pregnancy in poorer countries, and that again is because you're going straight back to work, you might be doing more physical labour, and you need to support your body after giving birth. So even though corsets aren't being worn in the Western world after childbirth, in other countries the belly binding still exists after childbirth, simply so you can get on with your day-to-day life. Moving on to modern wear corsets. Again, you can apply the 80-20 rule to this. So 80% of the people who wear corsets today probably wear them for special occasions, or when they dress up or when they feel like it. They don't wear them on a day-to-day basis. And 20% could probably be classed as tight laces or waist trainers. And when you look at that 20%, again, you can divide that into 80%. 80% might be daily wearers like me, who wear a corset every day, but don't wear it like 24/7. I just wear it, 10 hours a day. And the 20% of that part, they'd be the hardcore 23/7, so wearing it 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you're looking at the people who wear corsets 23/7, you're talking about a teeny tiny, like literally a handful of people in the world who do that. And there is a lot of information about them, and there's not any evidence that their bodies are damaged. They have healthy lives. And also, when you wear a corset like that, you do really have to pay close attention to your body. And I was actually at my chiropractor's a couple of weeks ago, and she said that I was healing really quickly, and probably because I was hyper in tune with my body, and I know when something doesn't feel right. But for me, I've been wearing corsets for 25 years now. I've been wearing a corset on a daily basis for nearly a decade now. I walk 4 miles to work every day. So although I said earlier I can't run, I can definitely walk. While I wouldn't exercise in a corset and I wouldn't run through choice in a corset, I can walk a long distance in a corset with no issues, and I go about my day-to-day business in a corset with no issues. I don't have any health issues due to wearing a corset. The thing about corsets is if they do become uncomfortable, you can either just loosen them or take them off. So to say they're going to damage your body, surely if something's going to damage your body, it's going to be painful and you'll just take it off. It's not rocket science. It's just an item of clothing. It's the same as when you wear a pair of high heels. Is yes, they look great and you love the way you look in them, but you're not going to wear them all day, every day. If they're painful to you, you're just going to take them off. And a corset is exactly the same. So that basically sums everything up. It's frustrating that someone who, should know better has come out with this nonsense, because as she is, a highly respected person who, really sounds what she knows, what she's talking about, she's going to do a lot more damage than a trashy magazine just posting some kind of nonsense article about corsets. So that is the upsetting thing. But you really, when you talk about corsets, when you look at buying a corset, you really need to go to the people who have been doing it for years and years and who can tell you the truth. And that's really what I'm trying to do here. Corsets aren't for everyone. That's fair enough. We're lucky to live in a day where, we don't have to wear a corset. We don't have to wear a bra now due to COVID. We can do exactly what we want and present ourselves in the way we want to. And it's great to have that choice. But corsets, yep, as far as I'm concerned, corsets are safe to wear. If you do have any questions about corsets or anything else to do with what Katie did, please get in touch. And in the meantime, take care, and I'll catch up with you soon.